Hi, everybody. Which class are we calling into? Is this decision science, or is it several classes combined, or?
Several classes, several combined.
Terrific. Well, my name is Dartmoor Howell, kind of an odd name, very British. Thanks everybody for calling in today. I hope the audio is okay. And do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, my name's Meredith Wilson. Dartmoor invited me to this one because I am at RCG and I did do an internship here at Intel. So thought that if you have any questions, you can shoot them my way. I could definitely tell you the real life experience of what it's like here.
Great. What we thought we'd do is spend a little bit of time telling you about the internships here at Intel, how the internship program works, the typical life, and what one does while interning here at Intel, and walk you through that. That may take, I don't know, about 20 minutes, give or take, and then certainly save lots of time for questions and anticipate a bunch of those from you. Any questions before we get started, though?
No.
I'll take silence as a no. Hang on a second. I'm going to try to see if I can technologically start up my presentation. And tell me, is that coming through okay?
No. Yes.
There we go. Okay, good. So Meredith and I, we sit in the ASMO operations team. We are an operational team within Intel. We're within the sales and marketing group. Don't get too caught up in sales and marketing, though. We're neither sales nor marketing. We are the folks who get supply out to customers. We receive their demand. We understand what our customers' demand is, and we count the revenue. Supply, demand, and revenue is our core business. Let me start, though, and go kind of high level and talk about Intel. Just I don't want to assume too much and assume that everybody knows who Intel is beyond a label on your computer. We're principally a manufacturer of semiconductors. We produce the brains and the wireless and the chipset components that are in the grand majority of PCs, personal computers, and servers in the industry. We're trying very, very strongly to get into the tablet market, and soon you'll see us in phones as well. We have about 100,000 employees across the globe, including in 63 countries. Last year we did, I think this foil's a little bit dated, $55 billion in revenue from our customers. We've been profitable for over 25 years consecutively. You may have read in the press recently that Intel has struggled, and you'll read about the trials and tribulations. Well, look at our financials. We're still a very, very profitable company, still doing quite well, just not as well as we have in the past and not as well as we'd like to do. We've got one of the top 10 most valuable brands. We're rated typically within the top 5. Last chart I saw was number 5 for supply chain. And that's where Meredith and I's team really focuses, is on supply chain. So we're quite proud of seeing a high ranking there. We're a very socially conscious company. We're very involved in what we call a great place to work, and you can see here several instances of our purchase program for green power, our investment in our communities, and our investments in giving back. And as employees and interns, you would have lots of opportunity to do so. And if there's any questions on a given slide, please jump in and shout loud enough so we can hear you. Are these slides coming through okay? I just wanted to check.
Yeah, they're quite a bit small.
Let me try blowing this up and tell me if this is better. Is that better?
Same.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I can't make it any bigger. We tried earlier and it didn't work. So let me tell you about. I'm gonna blow this up a little bit so you can see. How's that? Is that any better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Terrific. So we're in Folsom, California. You may have only heard about Folsom from Johnny Cash's song about the prison here. And that's what Folsom, California is well recognized for. If you haven't been here, though, it's a pretty nice place. We're just outside of Sacramento. It's a very, very active community. A lot of bicyclists, a lot of family orientation here. Folks involved in water sports, folks who like skiing, performing arts, education. It's a pretty neat community. I feel very lucky to work here and live here as well. We're about in the middle point, just like Sacramento, of San Francisco and Tahoe. We've got 6,500 employees here. In fact, we're the largest site in California. We're even larger than the headquarters. Quite a big Intel presence here in Folsom, and certainly we're the largest employer besides government, one of the largest employers in the entire area. We have lots of IT engineers here, validation, and silicon designers. And our team, Meredith and my team of ASMO Operations, the America Sales and Marketing, is principally here, almost wholly here in Folsom. We've got 4 sites that are hubs within our Intel air fleet. We have shuttles that go between 4 sites. One of those sites is here in Sacramento, which is pretty neat. So that's about Folsom and Intel in Folsom. We've been here now, we're just celebrating 30 years. Digging in, though, on what we do here in operations, our operational teams, like I said earlier, we're about forecasting demand and matching that up to supply. Again, supply being CPUs, chipsets, wireless LAN parts. So matching supply and demand, and then forecasting the revenue. And since we're one of the key geos, we are about 50%, I think at last I looked, it was 46% of Intel's revenue. That's tens of millions of dollars, or tens of billions of dollars, about $25 billion a year in revenue that our team of 250 analysts forecast and count. As well, it's tens of millions of parts. So we're really influential into the company and quite proud of the work we do there. Oops, I didn't mean to flip foils. 1 second, I'll go back. Getting to our emphasis on recruiting, the way that our team, ASMO Operations, likes to recruit, in a perfect world, 100% of our hiring would be from interns. So we like to focus our internships on folks that we'd like to test to see if they'd like to work at Intel, and like to test, allow them to have the opportunity to try Intel out for size. It's not for anybody. It's a very demanding, very competitive environment. We're very results oriented. We work very hard and we play very hard. And as a result, we tend to attract people who like to do the same. So these internships, the great thing about an internship is one gets to try Intel out for size over that 2-month or more period and see if it's for you. A little bit about where we operate. Our influence, even though our focus is on America's customers like name brands you might recognize, I'm sure you'd recognize, our focus is across the globe. We make calls and are constantly in contact with folks across the globe. So I'd like to dig in a little bit on the internship itself and describe it for you, hopefully answer some of your questions about the internships themselves. Now the internship program for this year, 2014, is full. We've got all the interns we needed from last year's recruiting effort. So our focus this year, or focus going forward, is on 2015. But that starts early. If you've not been involved with an internship recruiting process, it starts early. Last year we didn't have a ton of interest from SFSU, so we started this session just to get the word out and hopefully get people interested so that when we do recruit there and start doing interviews out in the spring, I hope to see many of your smiling faces at the recruiting and the interview sessions. So the excuse me, the internship that we're looking at, it typically in the summer, it's somewhere like July 2015 through August 2015. Although those dates are a little flexible. It is a full-time internship, and the good news is that our interns are focused on real-world business. They own real-world desks and have real deliverables. In other words, we have often folks go out on sabbatical for the summer, or leaves for the summer. The interns that we hire for the summer are typically manning those desks, and therefore their benefits are real world as well. We offer competitive salaries. The interns are treated like real employees because they are. They're also blue badge, what we call blue badge employees. They receive competitive salaries. Our interns receive benefits such as relocation assistance, so moving from, say, Daly City to you know, Sacramento would be considered for relo assistance. They get a real-world experience and get that opportunity to test Intel, see if it's a good fit for you. Get to network with Intel managers and executives, and then consideration, certainly not a guarantee at all, but a consideration for full-time employment at graduation. And Meredith, maybe you could tell us a bit about your experience when you were interning here at Intel.
Sure, absolutely. Can you switch that to view? I wouldn't mind seeing everyone. Okay. Can you guys see me okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I was an intern last year. I actually was a co-op, so I interned for an entire year. Upon getting here, I thought that the internship would be something like, you know, making copies and going to get coffee and things like that, and totally was not that experience for me. As soon as I got here, there was a girl going out on maternity leave, so I was dumped into the server CPU desk on one of our largest MNCs, the HP account. So right away, I had a lot of visibility on a lot of revenue, right? Because our server CPUs are, you know, a little bit more pricier, and HP being one of our largest accounts, there was a lot of management going on there. So through the course of my internship, my job is a real job, right? It's not a special project or anything along those lines. So from the get-go, I was working a real job. You know, handled everything that any other employee in the same position handled. Is there anything specific you want me to talk about, or kind of what it was like and what I did?
What would be your best suggestion for somebody who's considering an internship at Intel? What was your biggest surprise?
So I would recommend that everyone have some analytical experience. Intel's definitely looking for analytical people, and this doesn't necessarily mean being an Excel guru, although if you are, that's really great. It does mean being able to problem solve. So, you know, figuring out what the problem is, analyzing it, and getting to the proper solution. So when I started my desk, you know, management had told me it's going to be like a fire hose, just hold on, and they weren't kidding. I mean, everything just comes at you, and it's a little bit overwhelming, but luckily, I had a great team, and you can definitely talk to everyone. Everyone was there to show me how to do things. So having analytical experience and being an analytical person is, I mean, a necessity for the position.
That's great. All right. Like I said, we'll save times for questions at the end, just for management of this session. It's probably easier to save it to the end, not anything else. I do have a couple more foils to show you. Thanks, Meredith. All right, so who we're looking for, we're looking for folks who are typically involved in a bachelor's degree program. That's not to say an MBA program would be excluded. We've done MBA interns as well. Meredith, you were MBA?
Yeah, MBA intern.
Yeah. Most of the candidates we take for our internship program are 4-year bachelor degree candidates. Our environment is, much to Meredith's description, it can be ambiguous at times. The solutions aren't clear. These are not process jobs. It's not moving a bucket of bolts from one bin to the other bin and then moving it to a third. Sometimes you don't know what bin to put it in. You're not sure where the bolts are. And that's part of the folks that we look for who we look for folks who can work in an environment where it's not necessarily strictly defined. One needs to have the ability, the eligibility to work in the U.S. Without visa sponsorship. Unfortunately, we can't offer visas sponsorship at this time. As well, we look for folks who have strong analytical capabilities. Again, much to what Meredith was saying, it's not necessarily specific skill chops, but rather the ability to think through a problem. We also look for folks who have customer service experience to the degree you've worked with customers, be direct customers or even internal customers in your previous work experience. That will benefit you. Candidates need to have excellent communication skills. The ability to communicate and articulate an argument here at Intel can't be overstated, and detail orientation is also important. So we thought what might be interesting as well is to go through a day in the life or describe what a day looks like here at Intel. And Meredith, maybe you could walk us through this.
Yeah, definitely. So, guys, Dartmoor put this slide together, but to be honest, it's pretty close to what my day looks like. So, you know, like Dartmoor here has on the slide, you get here. One of the cool perks about Intel is that in our cafes we get free fruit and free coffee and drinks. So any beverages you want, which is nice. It's a lot nicer than not having those things, right? And so on this chart, Dartmoor then has at 8 a.m. having a teleconference with procurement team in Austin. Here he has written out based on customer to discuss current week product shipments, quarter supply requirements, business trends. So this is pretty close. I had a call this morning at 8:30. My calls are actually to Houston. We had Houston and Denver on the call with HP. Those are their big procurement hubs. And we were talking through some of their new low-end entry platforms that are carrying our new Bay Trail CPUs. And so we're taking a look at that. Demand has been very, very strong, stronger than we originally expected. And so really taking a look and talking about the market and where we see that going, and you know, should we be calling a higher demand? Because as part of what my job is I'm analyzing the market trends, because my job right now, I'm on the mobile CPU desk now, but I'm calling our wafer starts. So what I roll up to, you know, planning, divisional planning, is what we decide to build out for our customers. And so it takes, you know, a little bit to build out our CPUs. And so we really want to make sure that we're calling the right mix and calling the right amount, right? Because we don't want to be in a situation where we can't support our customers. So that was what the call this morning was about. That was at 8:30, from 8:30 to 9:30. Definitely had management on the call as well as we walked through it on the HP side. Then at 10:30, Dartmoor has on here meeting in the cafe to talk to a GSA, a Geographic Supply Analyst, to talk about the changes in demand. Again, pretty close to what I did. I actually talked to a GBA, which is a Geographic Business Analyst, but very similar conversation. You know, this is what HP is seeing. This is what we're seeing in the market. Looks like it's coming in really strong, stronger than expected, so we might have to build out more than originally planned. Lunch he has called out here is the cool thing about this site is we have an on-site gym and basketball courts. So I don't work out during lunch because I don't want to have to shower and go back to work, but I do work out after work in our gym. So it's pretty nice to have those perks here. We do have showers though here if you want to, you know, shower and go back to work. 1 o'clock, let's see, update the ordering system that requires changes from the morning meeting. I didn't do that today because we're still talking through the quantities and what exact mix we want for products, but this is pretty close to what we would do. 2:30, talking over with our customer sales analyst. So Really, the customer business analyst is working on supply and demand, and then our customer sales analyst is tracking revenue for the quarter. So we definitely want to tie out, make sure that we're seeing the same picture, because those numbers should be pretty close. So I want to let my customer sales analyst know about what I talked with HP about, the fact that the market is trending stronger than expected, so that they can then make a determination if they should include that in their revenue number for this quarter. And then he's got on here 5 o'clock, making a call to Japan. So not calling APJ tonight, since we're on the on this call with you guys, but last night I did have a conference call with APJ just to talk about some of our consignment hubs that we have over there in China, and to walk through some of the supply situations we have going on. So pretty close. Slide's pretty close to what I actually do.
Thank you. And just to put in context, Meredith works on a particular product line with a particular customer. Please don't take any of her comments to mean some sort of market comments. We're not making market comments, but rather this is a description of what she's saying in one particular selection of the business, and describing her job and how her job rolls up to other analysts' roles.
Correct.
The types of characteristics we look for, we like to call these the 10 demonstrated characteristics. We got together with in the management team and described those analysts that we saw regularly succeeding or doing beyond expectation works, and they have these 10 characteristics or some handful of characteristics. You'd expect stuff like business acumen and analytics based on what Meredith and I have been talking about. You'd probably expect to see influence and networking on there. What you may not expect to see is communication and creative free thinker. Those who can, I actually didn't study business. I'm a graduate of SFSU. I didn't study business there. I studied fine art. And I found it seems like an odd fit. But I found that my ability to think outside of the box and bring a different angle to the same analytical problems has been a huge value add here at Intel. Those who can think creatively and communicate well are a great fit. And last slide here, I want to describe the next steps. We're going to post our, I think it's called a job rec in your system. We'll post that internship job rec in your system in September, and you'll see it online. I'd ask you, if you're interested in what we've described today, to post your resume against that rec. My suggestion is keep your resume crisp and clear. I know I've received some resumes in the past that have just went on and on and on. More words don't actually help. And I'm just giving you my experience as somebody who's read a lot of resumes. Keep them crisp and clear. Describe the work you did. Describe results. Put numbers to your results if possible. And those are the things that make a convincing resume. It's not length. So we're going to look through the resumes here at Intel, myself and several other managers, and select candidates that we want to interview, which moves us to our next step, which is interview. We did interviews last year at San Francisco State at the downtown campus I think we did in November last year. This year, I'd like to do it earlier if Orlando and I can work that out. And wherever you guys choose to have me, I'd be glad to meet up with you and on campus and have those half-an-hour interviews. After that, we typically select several candidates across all the schools that we interview at, and then we do a phone screen telecom interview shortly, probably a couple weeks after the on-campus interviews. If one's selected for the internship, we make an offer. That offer would include a full description of salary and benefits, relocation if that applies. And if you choose Intel, we choose you, then we welcome you on board. Okay, so that's it for our formal presentation. I'm going to slip back here to the screen share mode. So Meredith and I get online and like to open it up to questions. And please, anybody step forward. If you could speak loud and clear so we can be sure to hear you. That's all I ask.
Could you expand a little more on what you do and do not want to see on a resume?
Sure. The best I'll describe the best resumes in my opinion, and I read a lot of them. They're one pager. They describe key results. They describe your last up to 3, maybe 4 jobs. They go into some detail about those results. For instance, saying something like serve customers is fine, but saying something like saw an average of 12 customers a day to help them improve profitability, X number of percent is better. They're very focused on business experience, and if there's not business experience there in the past, they're focused on what you've learned at school. So you guys, I know a number of you are taking decision science there at SFSU. Definitely drill into the types of cases that you've looked at in your business experience, excuse me, in your school experience, and you can use that in the resume as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
I actually have a question. I'll actually be studying abroad this coming fall, and if by chance I did apply, would that basically bar me since you have an on-campus interview in October or whenever? Or would you be able to do it through some sort of telecommunications?
Let me see if I can repeat the question because it was kind of breaking up a little bit. I think the crux of your question was, could we do some sort of interviewing via teleconference? Is that right?
Exactly.
Presently we can't. We'd like to meet you face to face, but we've been investigating teleconference software to do an interview, and it's a possibility in the future, but at this point I wouldn't commit to it.
Meredith, what kind of courses did you find most helpful on the job?
Did you say what kind of courses, like classwork?
Correct.
So statistics was a huge help. My microeconomics classes, very helpful. Let's see. Organizational behavior, that was helpful as well. I think those were the big ones. I did take supply chain management in my graduate studies, and so clearly that was applicable to what I do. Yep, those would probably be the big ones.
Thank you.
I jump in too. I actually did get a master's degree in business later at the University of Arizona, and the one thing that surprised me one of the most useful things that I learned in business school was the NPV, the net present value calculation, and I ended up using that in several modeling situations. Just the ability to learn how to create a model through the NPV scenario, and in some of my finance classes, has turned out to pay dividends over the 11 years I've been here at Intel. It's paid off huge.
So I have a question. I'm going to graduate on December, so can I still apply for the summer internship in 2015?
I'm sorry, a little of that was coming through on our side. Would you mind stepping forward, maybe?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hi, so my name is Alberto. My question is that I'm going to graduate on December this year. Can I still apply for the internship on the summer of 2015? Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. We do internships and sometimes co-ops being longer-term internships in December. So I encourage you to apply. There are fewer available, but there are much fewer candidates as well. So your opportunity to get one is about the same. No, definitely encourage you to apply. Just make sure in your cover letter to specify you are available in December or at graduation in December of 2014.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on that question, so if you're not graduating but you wanted to do an internship outside of the summer, like if you wanted to do it during the fall or the spring, do you guys have those kinds of internships available for current students or people that are still enrolled?
Yeah, fortunately, we do have flexibility on when we can offer internships. Just one thing, the internships are here in Folsom. They're not in Santa Clara, and they certainly couldn't be in San Francisco. Our team's here. The expectation is that one is living out here and working out here. But it'd be difficult to do while you're at school. The commute just would be a bear.
Right, but there's like Sacramento State and stuff like that, or online courses. So I'm just saying, like, what kind of flexibility would you have in that situation?
I see. Yeah, well, the only consideration is you want to be, engaged in a four-year program, right? So being between schools wouldn't benefit you. Being out of school, enrolled in a school, is important to us.
Yep, just to add on to that, I was an intern for a year, fall through June, because I was getting my MBA at UC Davis, and so I was able to do the commute and intern for the entire time.
We haven't had any questions yet about the internship itself. I would be surprised if I described it so well that I answered all your questions. I'm not that good.
We do have a question.
Yeah, speaking of who you're looking for, you used the phrase strong analytics and discernment. Could you expand on what you mean by discernment?
Our analysts, and I'll ask Meredith, maybe if you could hit an example. Our analysts inform the management on what decisions they should make. We constantly are making, the analysts are constantly making recommendations on where we should take, I don't know, our Wall Street forecast, or which chips we should build, constantly making those recommendations. So the ability to take a set of data, interpret that, analyze that data, and then interpret it, and turn it into a recommendation is discernment. That's the difference. It's being able to take information, model it, analyze it, and then make some recommendation.
Thank you.
Example we might.
I mean, to Dartmoor's point, even to the example I was speaking to earlier, kind of my topic of conversations with my customer today. That's exactly what we're doing. We're pulling historical data, taking a look at trends, looking at that against other customers, trying to figure out, is Intel winning share within the customer? Is the customer winning share in the market, or is the market expanding? Really looking at the different sides of it to make a decision, on what we think is happening with this.
Yeah, it's neat work. If you enjoy analytics, you'd enjoy this kind of work. That's not to sell you. I just was surprised how fun this some of the work is that I used to do as an analyst, because we're forecasting the future, and it's inherently imperfect. You can't forecast the future exactly right. So there's a ton of ambiguity there, and how you can use insightfulness, resourcefulness in order to inform your decision making and your recommendation. If you bring those skills to bear, that again is what I call discernment.
Doug, I got another question for you. When you're describing the job, you describe it in many, I would call mushy characteristics. I'm assuming you're looking more for like a content of character than more expertise in the program. Like you themselves would provide, I guess, training with your own programs is what led to view, or would you prefer experience like with heavy Excel usage, or is there some like tangible skill you're really looking for?
Yep, I'll go ahead and answer that for you. So Excel training is great. You need to have some basic Excel understanding, but for myself, I was not, a huge Excel guru is what I would say. So I think in my situation, I think what they took into account is is some of those characteristics. Communication is huge. I communicate directly with our customers and customer management, so you need to be able to communicate effectively. How you work on a team is really important. We work in teams here. We value our team members. We work with one another. We get ideas from one another. We feed off of that. So if you don't work well with others, well, for me, I do work well with others, so it's worked out well for me. Those are, I know you mentioned like mushy things, but those are pretty important. Dartmoor talked about the analytical ability. Again, I don't want to stress the fact that you don't have to be amazing in Excel, but analytics is really goes back to looking at a problem and being able to, scope it and define it, and then analyze it and figure out a solution. And there could be many different solutions, right? And being able to bring that to bear, you have to be able to tell a story around what you're seeing. Those are kind of where I would go with
yes,
it. Yeah.
Does that get to your essential question?
Yeah, I was just basically wondering, like, are you hiring more for content of character or more for, it's just, it sounds like you're hiring more for, I guess, content of characters. I think that's the best way to describe it.
I don't know that I call it content of character, but given the choice between two individuals, one who has excellent Excel chops and another one who has okay Excel chops but yet shows a degree of resourcefulness to get decisions, I'm probably going to really spend a lot of time with the second candidate.
Yep, and here at Intel, they do stress a lot of training. So, I've gone through many trainings, Excel trainings, different tool trainings, and so I think for me, they were looking for someone that was teachable as well, right?
Good.
So I have a question. What kind of analytical tools do you use in Intel?
Yeah,
what kind of analytical tools, Meredith? Maybe you can take.
Yeah, you use there to analyze.
Excel. I rely a lot on Excel, and within Excel, we have huge amounts of data, here at Intel, which is awesome that we have access to all this data. And so, really being able to work pivot tables, being able to pull the data and look at it different ways, that's pretty important. Outside of Excel, we've got different tools. I don't know how I would explain them though, because it's just what we do and stuff. But having an understanding or being able to learn how to pivot data inside Excel is pretty important. And then again, it goes back to this whole mindset of being analytical, to where you can think of, okay, what am I trying to look at here? Because you can get a huge data dump, right? And you have all this data, and then it's like, what are you searching for? What are you looking for? And so being able to analyze that and then pivot it and pull it and look at it the way you want to.
Yeah, the central repository for our data, we're doing our analysis principally in Excel, but also where our data resides and where we upload to is SAP. If you've got some SAP experience, you might emphasize that as well in your resume, because that's certainly of value to pretty much any company, because it is such a core ERP system. But like Meredith is saying, we do most of our analysis through pivot tables and charts.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Good.
I was just curious what percentage of the job is actually analytics and what percent is more communicating with customers or working with your coworkers, just so I get a feel of how many hours you're doing that hardcore data processing and how many is more on the communication side.
Well, it really depends on the desk, right? We've got lots of different types of analysts, as you can imagine. We've got a team of 250 individuals here, and they do different roles, but and some of them don't work with external customers at all, but rather internal customers, like the folks who build our chips. So if I had to broadly generalize, I'd probably split it between a third of the time on analytics, a third of the time with customer facing, and a third of the time in just meeting overhead, working with your manager, working with your other individual stakeholders, trying to influence them.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Thank you.
Meredith, you mentioned when you started off, they kind of like threw you right in. Like, you know, I'm sure that's pretty intimidating for a lot of people, getting all that responsibility. I was wondering, what kind of support did they give you? Was it just the training, or were you assigned somebody that you could kind of bump ideas off of, or, you know, ask questions? And especially when you're starting off, you really don't want to mess up right off the bat, you know, especially with like a big account like HP or something like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. So I was assigned a buddy. We have a buddy system here at Intel, and so from day one, I was assigned a buddy that I could go to with questions that maybe I didn't want to talk to my manager about, or didn't want to ask my team because I didn't want to come off, you know, as not knowing something. And so my buddy, I mean, simple things like, where's the cafe? Like, how do I get there? You know, can I use the gym? You know, things like that. My buddy was really helpful with, as well as some of the Excel tool building stuff my buddy helped with. But primarily, in my case, my team was a huge resource. Here's the thing, is everyone has been in your position, really. So they know what it's like to enter a new job. And the cool thing about our specific group is that people do kind of rotate around a little bit. And it doesn't matter if you're new as an intern or if you're just new to the position. It's pretty much the same situation. So everyone's been there and everyone is used to you know, kind of being overwhelmed with the data and being overwhelmed with the new job tasks. I was overwhelmed, and like you mentioned, I was a little, you know, I don't know, in a way, I guess I would say I was frightened. I don't want to admit any deficiencies, you know. But everyone was right there and able to help me, and I've had a great experience. Great experience. Clearly, I was hired, and I'm still here. Oh, I would also say that we had, I think it was during the internship, we did weekly training sessions, and then I think it was bi-weekly sessions where everyone would get together and talk about any problems they were facing or anything they wanted to learn about, things like that.
Yeah, we're lucky. We've got this group of 250. We're all on the same campus. That actually is quite unusual for Intel. So we are like a small family, or I guess you'd say a large family, but and we're pretty cohesive. We have a lot of fun together.
So I have a question for the requirement, right? You say something about not sponsoring international student for visa, right? But then can an international student still participate in the internship and then just leave after you finish if not selected for full-time position?
Unfortunately, no, because our internships or our interns are treated as employees. We would have to do visa sponsorship. So having the ability, the eligibility to work in the U.S. Without sponsorship is a requirement of the internship program as well.
How about if the student have an OPT after graduation?
I'm sorry, one more time?
If the student have an optical practical training, which is like basically you can work for this kind of job, you can work for 2 years, right? If that's still considerable to apply, like that can they still work, even though they can work for 2 years after graduation?
You know, I'm not a legal expert, so I wouldn't know what different types of visas there are, but I understand there's student visas and work visas and that sort of thing. Just the bottom line being that you've got to have eligibility to work without Intel sponsoring you. That's key. There are, I understand, other positions here at Intel where they do sponsor you. Those are for engineers. These are not engineering positions that Meredith and I are talking about, though.
Thank you.
I actually have one question. More on this, not so much the internship, but just corporate culture with you guys. I know with Intel, especially on the engineering, especially data farming side, that you guys, or not you guys specifically, Intel likes to kind of move around their employees to kind of get different aspects of the corporation. Now, I heard you said that it was 250 employees. Are you guys moved around within that 250 employees, or pretty much like stationary?
Yes, I mean, the general expectation, this is not a rule, but it's a generalized expectation here, is that one is when their jobs in the beginning, the early years of Intel career, about a year and a half to 2 years before they move on to another role. But we see a huge value in somebody having a diversity of experiences. I've been here 11 years. I've probably had 7 jobs, and I've been in 2 major groups at Intel. So moving around not too frequently, maybe every year and a half or 2 years is seen as beneficial. And the people we hire, typically they like that sort of thing. I get bored after too long. So I enjoy seeing new jobs.
We have a number of students that are graduating in 2 weeks. So I'm guessing they're not eligible for the internship positions, but do you have any openings for them?
Not at this time. They're welcome to send in their resumes, but at this time we don't have any openings. Sorry to say, but congratulations on graduating. That's a huge accomplishment.
I had a question about the requirement for the actual internship. If you have, like, let's say if you have a class that you need to finish over the summer, would you still qualify, or do you need to have a class in the fall to be considered still like a student while you're doing the internship?
You know, if you're enrolled in college, enrolled in a 4-year degree and moving towards a diploma, then you're eligible. Any other questions? These have been great questions, by the way. You guys have been very interactive. We appreciate it. Is that Orlando in the back there?
Yes.
I'm
here somewhere.
I wasn't. Thanks for hosting this, buddy. We really appreciate it.
So, thanks to Professor Sanjit and Professor Salzman for bringing the students out here. Also, a big thanks to Tom Kelleher, my new marketing technology manager, for making sure that we could pull this off. I think it's really important to note that last year, first of all, thank you to Intel, because last year when we started having these conversations, we struggled with getting the audience, the students. And so this time, when you look at the fact that Dartmouth, we actually have about 37 students or so here, and then another 12, 13, it went down a little online, so we're talking 50 students that were engaged in this process. And I think this is just the first step of how we want to continue to manage, the relationship to make sure that we can make an impact for you as a business partner, but we can also make an impact for San Francisco State and our students. So thank you for that.
Terrific. Yeah, thank you, and thank you both to both professors for hosting us, allowing us to take time out of your day. We really appreciate it, and thank you, Tom, for putting this together.
And you and I will be in contact soon.
Sounds good, buddy.
Fantastic.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all for coming.
If you guys have any other questions, I'm going to hang around for a few minutes. Stop it. Yeah, you can stop it now. I wasn't.